Hey everyone, Richard Robbins here. Well, the numbers are in for February for the Calgary Real Estate Board. Now, it's hard to believe we're now 2 months through the year, and as we record this, we're actually into the end of the first week of March. So let's have a look here what's going on. What I've done is I've gone back 3 months for you. I've done a few things different this time. In my very last slide, I'm going to talk about the strength of the markets right across Canada. So if you're in Calgary, you can see, sort of where you stand. So if we look at your sales, okay, you can see in December we did 794, then we went 804, which was up about a point, and then we're up by 21% here. So you can see we went 976 sales. So month over month, it's very good numbers, but I'm also going to show you the sales for the last 5 years in the next slide. Active listings, you can see we're 4904, that gave 6.2 months of inventory. This number divided into that gives you the strength of your market. Remember, 4 to 6 balance, above 6 a buyer's market, below 4 you're moving into a seller's market. You can see here 5,473 listings up by 11%, 6.8 months, and then you can see here our listing inventory went up, but it didn't go up as much as our sales. So in other words, up to 5,900, which is 7.5%. So if our sales were high and we didn't go up as much percentage-wise, you see what happens? Our months of inventory starts to drop, which means the market starts to get a little stronger, right? So prices, 447, 451, 461. Interesting, isn't it? You can see months of inventory, right in that balanced area, but your prices went up a little bit because some high-end detached probably sold to cause that. You got 69 days, 72 days, 64 days, so we're moving the right direction. But here's the big one here. Let's go back to the last 5 years. If we look at your sales, so 2015, you had 1,207 sales. Then we went down, 6.4% to 1,130. Now this is February over February. Then we went up 18%, almost 19%. And then we dropped, and then we dropped. Now what's going on here? What just started to happen? Well, there's many things that affected the market. Obviously, oil prices have an impact in your market in a big way. However, your market is doing relatively well if we think about stress testing we've had. We've had all the rate increases since the summer of 2017, and this is what's sort of causing some of this. But the bottom line is this. If you do 976, you can see you're substantially below what you've done for the last 5 years, okay? And you're down a little bit even from last year in February. So 2015, you can see we're 5,531 active listings, 56, went down to 44, so our listing inventory down because our sales went up. Then obviously listing was starting to rise, okay, and it got up to where it is right now at almost 6,000. So if we look at your months of inventory, the strength of your market over the last 5 years, you can see 4.65, 3.3, 4.86. Strong seller's market right here. Really balanced, relatively balanced, moving towards the buyer side depending on property type, which I'll get to in a minute. You can see obviously your prices are sitting right where they were 5 years ago. You're 460,000, we're 461 right now. You can see we went up, went up a little bit, and then we're back to where we were 5 years ago. Here's the breakdown of the sales based on property type. So we had 593 detached sales, 149 apartments, 234 attached. Okay, we got 104 semi-detached and 130 row. So obviously you can see that most of your sales that are taking place are going to be detached because you're in a market where people can still afford that. If we look at, say, Vancouver or Toronto, there's more apartment sales than detached sales because people can't afford them and those cities are building up instead of out, okay? So here's something interesting, your months of inventory. You notice if we look at your apartments, you're 8.7. That's a complete buyer's market right there. So prices are falling in your apartments. You're at 5 months of inventory in detached, so we're very balanced. So if you looked at, say, inexpensive detached in your market, probably though in a good area, those prices are probably creeping up just a little bit because it would be lower than this. But if you've been in a high end, so let's say we're talking now a house that's $1.5 million, $2.5, even $3 million, maybe in Elbow Park, what you're probably going to see is you're going to see your inventory be a little bit higher, and those prices would probably be maybe weakening just a little bit. But you can go along and you can see what else is happening in your marketplace. This is your average price. So detached, $540. Apartment, 286. Attached, 369. Semi, 465. Row, 293. So if we look right across the country here, this is what's happening in all the markets. So if we go to Vancouver, they have 7.8 months of inventory right now. Now that came down by about 2 months, just January over February, but they're still sitting at 7.8. Edmonton is 7.5. Calgary, you're at 6. Toronto's 2.6. At the time of the recording, I couldn't get February's for Ottawa, but this would probably be slightly lower than Toronto because Ottawa is a very strong market right now. Montreal's at 5.1. Look at your average prices. Highest price in Canada is going to be Vancouver. West Van obviously would be the highest even in Vancouver. 354 in Edmonton, you're at 461. Toronto's at 780. Ottawa's at 466. And at the time of the recording, I couldn't get it for Montreal. So you can see you're following right into the middle that's going on right now. Now, just talking about the future of your market. If we had the stress test last January, which we did, we've had a number of rate increases since the summer of 2017. Obviously, a number of years ago, you got whacked with the oil price drop. So there's been a lot happening in Calgary. But I will say, I think Calgary has recovered very, very well based on what happened with oil prices. And what that means is you've got a more diverse economy now, okay, than you used to. I understand there's a lot of empty space downtown and that sort of thing. I get all of that. But I look at it and say, I think what you're going to see is you're going to see over the next 90 days, I think you're going to see that your prices are going to continue to increase just a little bit. Because what's going to happen is, as long as we don't have anything else, come to the market that's going to stimulate the market in one way or the other, like a bunch of rate increases, which I don't think we're going to see a rate increase this year. And if we do it, it might be one, but I'm sort of saying I don't think we're going to see one. Obviously the stress test in place, that's done. That what's going to happen is it's going to become the new normal. And what do I mean by that? It takes a while for the public to get used to the new normal. When they see a lot of changes going on, rates moving, stress testing, things like that, what do people do? They stop. Whoa, we better wait and see, right? We don't know what's going to happen. And then when all of a sudden you're just cruising along and nothing's really happening anymore, that becomes the new normal. And then people get back out into the market. And let's face it, it's been pretty cold in Calgary this year, so that's probably affected your market as well. So I think you're going to see your sales to continue to increase, which normally they do in the spring. I do think your months of inventory is going to start to drop a little bit and your market's going to start to get a little stronger. I don't think there's going to be a drastic change. I think sort of what you see is what you get, just being maybe a little bit better. But the market you're in right now is a wonderful, wonderful market to work in because you've got a relatively balanced market, if you will. Yes, you got a buyer's market in condo apartments, no question, but you got generally a very balanced market. So all you have to do is forget the way it used to be. Quit thinking about that. Deal with what it is you have now. Price your listings right because you got to be very, very competitive out there and focus on getting listings. A lot of people ask me, when markets are changing, should we focus on buyers or listings? Always focus on listings. When you control the listing inventory, okay, you control your destiny. When you have the listing inventory, the rest of the agents are working for you. They're showing your properties like you're the CEO of your own company. So my advice to you is go out every single day, prospect in the morning, generate business in the morning, service business in the afternoon, and always be looking for listings. And if you look for listings, you're going to find buyers as well. But always be looking for listings. Remember, everybody, it's a beautiful life. Make it count.